Hi, my name's Jim from BTL Liners. One of the most common questions we get is what happens if I have a pipe that has to punch through the liner when it's below water level? Today we're going to be addressing that by explaining and showing you a video on how to properly install a tape-on boot kit. This is a perfect solution for the homeowner or the contractor that doesn't have access to the technician or welding tools. So here we go. All right, when your pond first gets dug and an excavator has done his initial cut into the land, this bank right here is probably something similar to what you're going to see. Before any liner is installed, and especially any type of pipe boot, we have to prepare the substrate properly. Now, as you see here, we've taken away all of the objects that could run a risk of puncturing our liner. We've removed all the sharp stones, the debris. In this case, we've used a rake and we've hand-picked it. We have a firm surface, so we don't need to compact it down, although that is something that we recommend if you have a soft surface, to run some sort of compaction over it to take any parts that you missed to make sure that they're compressed into the soil. In some cases, this isn't real feasible because you have a very rocky or hard substrate, in which cases we do offer an 8-ounce geotextile, which is a fabric that you can put down before the liner goes down to cushion it and to help protect that liner. You'll also see that in this picture, the pipe coming out is a smooth, non-corrugated pipe. That is very important. It's very, very difficult to get any type of a reliable seal on a corrugated pipe. So you want to make sure that you have a round, solid pipe. In the case that you do have a corrugated pipe already in an existing position, you can get couplers and attach a solid pipe to that. After you have your site prepared, you've received your package. It's either come in a UPS box and a cardboard box, in which case all of the items will be in there with a set of instructions. If you got a larger liner and it came, say, rolled up on a pallet, you need to carefully inspect the material because your boots will be folded up and placed on top of the liner. There will be an additional box including your tape and hardware, and again, a set of instructions. All right, today our installation manager, Travis, is going to demonstrate for us how to actually install the boot. The first thing Travis is pulling out is the actual boot itself. We'll commonly refer to this as a top hat because it has that kind of a shape. The large area here we refer to as the flange. This part here is designed to go onto the liner. This part here is designed to go over the pipe. A real important thing I want to point out is that on all of these custom-made pipe boots, this is actually two pieces of fabric that are first sewed together and then they're welded. This seam right here is a part that you want to pay special attention to so that you're not yanking these two pieces apart. When you put on a boot, you do not want to press this down and try and hold this in place. This needs to go on as a single unit so that as little stress as possible is applied to this seam. All right, the next thing we're going to be looking for is our 4-inch single-sided tape. We're going to be using two different types of tape, a single-sided and a double-sided. Right now we got the 4-inch single-sided tape, and you'll have another roll of tape designed to go around the perimeter of the boot flange itself. Usually the smaller roll will be for your pipe, the larger roll is going to be for your boot. Our second type of tape is the 2-inch double-sided tape. The 2-inch tape has dual backings on it, made to be peeled off one at a time, and is designed to go in between the boot flange and the liner itself. In the event that you have a lot of boots or you're in need of a lot of tape, you most likely will get full rolls of either the 2-inch or the 4-inch, possibly both. In the event that you need more tape, we do sell that by the roll. Another part of the package is going to be your make-a-clamp that is self-adjustable by a flathead screwdriver. Many of you have seen these. It's a common item in hardware stores. It's designed to go around various thicknesses of pipe, and it's designed to be adjustable so that you can adjust the tension to make sure that you get a secure fit from the boot to the pipe. As I mentioned, every kit is going to come with a set of instructions. BTL employees and technicians are always available either online or on the phone to help you if you have further questions than what's listed on here. It's fairly straightforward with a step-by-step process, and hopefully after watching this video, these are going to make a lot more sense to you. The final item before you actually pull out the liner itself is each box will have a small piece of repair tape. This isn't something that you're going to use today. You want to put this in a safe, cool place for any incidentals later on down the road. It works just like the single-sided tape with a adhesive backing on it that you can peel off and stick onto small punctures or holes that might have happened to the liner. After you have opened your box and taken inventory, it's very important to set all of these items in a safe place that's not going to be disturbed during the deployment of the liner. And finally, we want to pick out the liner. In a small box like this, your liner is going to be packaged right along with the boot kits and all the hardware. As I mentioned before, on a larger liner, you'll probably receive it in a pallet and it'll be in a little bit of a different packaging. It's important to understand that the arrow pointing towards the side or pointing towards the coil is the direction that the liner is going to unfold. The other arrow is going to be the direction that the liner is going to unroll. It's also very important to note that there is not a top or a bottom. Either side of the liner, if it's up or down, it does not make a difference. All right, Travis, let's get this down. Now it's very important before we ever think about cutting a hole in our liner for the pipe that we want to have the liner in its finished position so that we can make sure that we're going to cut that hole exactly where that pipe's going to be when the liner is completed. So at this time, Travis is taking our liner and he's going to tuck it up into our trench. In this case, we're using a trench anchoring method. Whatever anchoring method you're going to use, you want to make sure that the liner is encompassing it. It is not time to backfill the liner or to tie it down up on top. We just want to make sure that the liner is pulled up into the position to make sure we got the proper positioning to cut the hole in the liner for the pipe penetration. Okay, so at this time, Travis is going to go down and he's actually going to mark and cut where the pipe is going to penetrate through the liner. During this process, you want to have some sort of a temporary ballast or weight that is holding the liner in place, so as he's down there doing his work, the liner is not slipping down the slope and messing up where that orientation is going to be. So in this case right here, if you pay close attention, Travis is feeling right where the pipe enters the ground. One of the common misconceptions that a lot of people have is that when they cut the hole for the pipe, they want to cut it at the end of the pipe. That is incorrect. You do not want to cut the hole down at the end of the pipe because at the finished product, the hole will be too low. The proper place to cut the hole in the liner is up, as Travis is showing you here, where the pipe enters the subgrade. Now Travis has a marker in his hand, and before he starts cutting, he's going to give himself some reference marks, so in case the liner shifts or it moves, he's got that mark. We know where that finished hole has to be. As you can see, he's running his mark down halfway down the pipe and halfway up the slope. So he's dividing his hole between the pipe and the upward slope. It's important to note that when you draw this circle and you cut your hole, that you don't make your hole larger than the flange of your boot. It just needs to be big enough to fit around the pipe. Now we're ready to actually cut the hole in the liner for the pipe to penetrate. You can use any sharp shop scissors, a box knife, anything that you're comfortable with, but please keep safety in mind. Okay, now after Travis has a hole cut for the pipe, it's obvious that the liner is going to have to be pulled back down so that we can put the liner underneath and pull it back up the pipe again. This is a reason why you do not want to anchor your liner up at the top when you put it in its initial placement. Now we're ready to slide the liner down in order to get the pipe through the liner. Now once Travis slides that underneath the pipe, and this is where extra hands and labor is going to come in handy. You want to be able to pull the liner back up to its original position, but it's important to try and keep that liner from wrinkling up as you go. It'll save you work in the long run. Okay, so now we have the pipe through the liner. This is a common sight after you get it through, it's all wrinkled up. What we're going to do here is we're going to pull these wrinkles out, and then we're going to put some sort of an anchoring in an area around the pipe to keep that section of the liner in place for the application of the boot. So here Travis and I, we're just going to work the wrinkles out. Each site is going to be different, but it's very similar to just straightening out a bed sheet. And once we get it so it's relatively wrinkle free, we're going to put down somewhat of an anchor in the various areas. Okay, once again, the anchoring process at this point does not have to be the complete finished anchoring that you're going to complete. This is just designed to keep the area around the pipe wrinkle-free for the application of the boot. Travis is cleaning the pipe now. You want to make sure that you clean the pipe first before the liner, because anything that's sitting up on the top of the pipe is going to fall down on the liner and just waste extra effort. After he gets done wiping off the pipe and getting it relatively clean, he's going to move on to the liner and make sure that there's nothing sitting on the liner up above that could roll down and affect your tape later on. On new liners, you're not going to have much. All you need is a clean rag or a damp rag if it's a little bit muddy. Do not use any type of oil-based soaps or no soaps at all. In the event that you're replacing a boot or you're working on a liner that is pre-existing and you might have some algae scum or something else that has stained the liner and you're worried about it, you can use a denatured alcohol, but I would avoid any other type of solvents whatsoever. So denatured alcohol or just clean water, that's pretty much all we want to be using to clean the liner. It's important that before we start applying any tape to the pipe or the boot that we do a proper test fit. You want to slide the boot directly onto the pipe, and as you're seeing Travis do here, you want to make sure that the underside of the pipe right down here is up as tight as you can possibly get it. This right here is frequently, if a boot is going to fail, it is usually going to be because the applicator has not put the boot all the way back to the subsurface. Okay, so during our test fitting, Travis is going to ensure that he has that pipe all the way up underneath the liner. He's going to pull that boot around where it's going to finish, and then he's going to mark a circle around the pipe, designating where that end of the boot is going to fit. This line will become a guide for when we pull the boot back off and apply the tape to the pipe. Okay, so now Travis has his mark on the pipe, we've removed the boot, and he's getting set to apply the tape that's going to go on to provide the gasket seal for after we put the pipe boot back on the pipe and clamp it. It's important here to note that he's putting the tape behind the white line. It's a 4-inch tape, so it's not very important that it be in any particular place besides making sure that the tape is on the bank side of the line that you drew. You don't want to put it all the way back here. An inch or 2 inches back from your white line is perfectly acceptable. What Travis has done here is he's flipped the boot so that he's got the underside exposed, and he's cleaned it off the same way that we've cleaned the liner. He's now applying the 2-inch tape by removing one side of the adhesive backing, and he's just going to put a perimeter around the boot. Travis has finished applying the tape. It's important to note that the tape doesn't have to go on perfectly straight, but you want to make sure that the tape is on flush and flat and that there are no large wrinkles that create voids underneath water could travel. A simple visual inspection and you're ready to go. The double-sided tape has been applied. Travis is now going to start with the actual installation of the boot. As we did previously, he's going to slide the boot up as far as possible and make sure that the boot is beyond the mark that he had made before he took the boot off. At this point, he has not removed the second adhesive backing on the double-sided tape. It's important to note that you don't want to do that because as you're trying to fit the boot and put it into the right place, if you had removed that backing, it's going to get stuck, going to get all dirty, and it's not going to work well. At this point, it's important to note that Travis is starting at the bottom of the flange of the boot. He's going to work the bottom down first, and then each side, and we're going to leave the top to the last. After Travis has removed the backing off the tape, he's using a simple putty roller. You can obtain one of these at a Menards or a Home Depot or any flat device that you can apply even pressure to the tape. We've moved on to the side of the boot. It's helpful here if you have an extra set of hands to hold this. If you'll notice, we've taken the boot, it's not coming up perfectly flat. We're starting to form a crease up here on the top of the boot. This is normal, and we want to do that. So as I hold it here, Travis is just doing the same thing that he did on the bottom of the boot. And we want to get a nice flat seal straight up the side. There's the liner down. He's going to take the putty roller, make sure we got a nice consistent seal, rolling out any air bubbles. If you're applying a boot in extremely cold weather or very cold weather, sometimes it's beneficial to use a simple thing like a hair dryer to heat up the area that you're working on, and you'll find that you'll get a better adhesion during your initial application. We've moved on to the opposite side, and as you can see, we got the nice flush finish on this. We're going to do the same thing all the way up here, and once again, we are moving this fold, this extra fabric, to the top of the pipe. All right, we have all three sides tacked down and taped down with a double-sided tape. Now, for this demonstration, we've actually picked a more difficult slope to show you how to put it on an angled pipe. If this had been a perfectly horizontal or vertical application, this fold that we've created up here that we're going to show you how to deal with here in just a moment wouldn't exist, and you would simply follow the procedures for the bottom and the two sides on the top. Before we remove the backing off the top side, what Travis is doing here is he's collecting the free material that we have up here on the boot and making a nice tight fold. This fold is then going to be bent over so that we can visually see all of our exposed edges, which we are going to address in just a moment. We have our fold situated where we want it. It's just sitting here loose for the time being. Travis is removing the backing from the tape. This is where an extra pair of hands can come in handy by holding the liner apart while he removes it, and then carefully following our crease and letting that dual-sided tape adhere to each other, and then finishing the rest of the top. After we have the top initially anchored with our double-sided tape and sealed up here, what Travis has done is he's measured a piece to fit right here. If you'll notice, there's a visible crease here that's very obvious. We want to make sure that we get that tape that overlaps that crease. So what we're showing here is simply where your liner is going to fold over. You want to make sure that you have at least 1 inch of tape that is going to be pinched in here. The purpose of this is that when we finally do this fold, water will not be allowed to travel up this crease and get anywhere underneath the boot. Because when we finish this here and put this over, this tape is going to provide a double seal to ensure that we get a full containment. There we go. Now that we have our boot anchored by the double-sided tape, Travis is going to apply the 4-inch single-sided tape around the perimeter of the flange. Notice that he's doing a 50-50 application. Half of the tape is going to be on the flange of the boot and half of the tape will actually be on the liner. So just split it right down the middle. All right, now as Travis moves around to the side of the boot, notice how he's overlapping the side tape on top of the layer that he already has on the bottom. Okay, as you can see, Travis has already finished the other side, basically doing the same thing that we did on the previous side, but the important thing is the top. Just as in the double-sided tape, we're leaving the top side to last. The first thing Travis is doing is he's measuring out enough tape to once again fully overlap the previous strip that he put down. And he has terminated this piece just past his fold. So he's got good purchase on both the liner and the fold. Now he's going to cut another piece to come from his other corner. Once again, he's going to overlap the entire piece over on the side, but it's important to note here where Travis is cutting, he's coming past the fold on this side. Remember, we already have the additional seal up here with the double-sided tape in the crease. So this crease right here isn't a concern for us because we know we have the seal up underneath. As previously mentioned in the video, in a horizontal or a vertical boot, the dual tape method up at the top of the boot would be unnecessary, and you would simply repeat the steps that you've done on the bottom and on the sides. You'll notice as we finished taping down the flange to the liner that the boot portion that covers the pipe looks to be oversized. It is done this way intentionally. We're going to show you how to deal with that in a moment. When you order a boot, it's important to note the outside diameter of the pipe. At that point, we will upsize that boot to make sure that it's fit and you do not have to pull or shimmy the boot down the pipe. In order to handle this gap up here, Travis is going to do something very similar to what we did with the fold up at the top. He's going to pinch it together and find which way that liner is comfortable folding. In this case, we're going to come over here to the right, and you'll see that you're going to get a nice tight seal all the way around. A second pair of eyes can look under the pipe and make sure that you have it up snug. We have the fold in place. Again, a second set of hands. We're just going to we've started the clamp. We're going to slide it down and move it over. And this is where you want to ensure that where we're going to finish anchoring the clamp, if you remember in the beginning of the video, we put that wrap of tape around the pipe. We want to make sure that this clamp is somewhere within those 4 inches so that we are using that tape as a gasket for compression. Okay. And Travis is going to tighten this until we get a nice snug fit. We now have the clamp in place over the tape, and we've had a good seal in between. The final step will be applying the final 4-inch tape. For our final step, Travis has measured out a piece of 4-inch single-sided tape long enough to fit all the way around and over the top of the clamp and be sealed back onto itself again. Just as with the previous 4-inch tape, we want to ensure that we're getting both a purchase on the pipe itself, on the liner, and also coming over the clamp. As Travis is working here, you'll notice that he's putting a nice firm stretch on the tape as he's pulling it around. This helps to sink the adhesive of the tape into the nooks and crannies that are created by the pipe, the clamp, and the multiple layers that we're dealing with. Once again, in real cold weather, you can use a hair dryer to make the tape a little bit more tacky, and it'll be easier to adhere to the surfaces. This concludes our tape-on pipe boot installation video. We'd like to thank you for your interest in BTL, and please feel free to call any of us at 1-800-280-0712 with any questions. Thank you.